Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before you even settle into your chair tonight, I want you to imagine something unsettling. The woman you call a good girl, the one who seems gentle, loyal, predictable, maybe hiding the one truth about you that she hopes you never notice. And once you see it, once you recognize it, you can't unsee it. It changes how you understand her and how you understand yourself. So if you're ready to hear what most men go their entire lives never realizing, take a second, subscribe, and like this video because what I'm about to tell you reshapes everything. Now look at me for a moment. I'm not here to scare you or turn you against women. I'm here to open a door in your mind that has been locked for years by comfort, denial, and the illusion that a woman who behaves calmly feels calmly. A good girl is often the woman who hides the most. Not because she's manipulative, not because she's playing games, but because she has learned that her truth, her desire, her disappointment, her frustration, her longing is too heavy for most men to handle. So she folds it quietly, tightly, neatly, like a secret note she tucks in her pocket. You may think she's patient. You may think she's easygoing. You may think she doesn't get upset like other women. But here's the truth most men don't realize until it's too late. Her silence is not peace. Her silence is strategy. It's the way she protects the relationship from conflict and protects herself from the fear that you might not care enough. The good girl doesn't want to overwhelm you. She doesn't want you to think she's dramatic. She doesn't want to lose you by saying too much. So she says nothing. She becomes agreeable. She nods. She softens. But inside, she is keeping score, not out of bitterness, but out of self-protection. She notices when you pull away. She notices when you forget something important. She notices when you stop appreciating what she gives from you. And because she rarely expresses it, you assume the bond is secure. You assume she's fine. You assume loyalty means emotional safety. But the secret she hides is simple. She feels everything deeply inside. And when a woman feels unseen for too long, even the good girl begins to drift long before she walks away. Here's where most men get it wrong. They assume a good girl who stays is content. They assume silence equals satisfaction. They assume loyalty equals unconditional forgiveness. But the reality is far more intense and far more dangerous to your relationship if you're blind to it. Loyalty is not a guarantee, silence is not a sign of happiness, and agreement is not the same as desire. A good girl measures her feelings quietly, but she never forgets. Every small disappointment, every subtle neglect, every time you took her patience for granted, she files it away. Not like a man keeping score on a bar tab, but like a silent ledger etched in the corners of her mind. And here's the part most men don't understand. She does not need to explode to leave. She does not need to argue to exit. She simply recalibrates her heart. She withdraws subtly, imperceptibly, until the connection you assumed was strong is almost gone. You see, she's not dramatic. She's discerning. She doesn't scream. She evaluates. She doesn't yell. She observes. And when she notices patterns, small betrayals, moments of indifference, repeated forgetfulness, she internalizes them as lessons about you, not to punish you, not to shame you, but to decide quietly if this is the man she can invest her life in. And men, this is the part that hits hard. Because she hides her disappointment, you never get the chance to fix it until it's often too late. You never see the cracks forming until she's already begun protecting her heart elsewhere. She's constantly watching, analyzing, and testing boundaries to see if you are capable of empathy, of understanding, of real emotional connection. Her secret is this: a good girl can love fiercely, but she can also leave without drama. Because she doesn't need to make noise to make a point. She doesn't need confrontation to communicate that something is wrong. She waits. She evaluates. She protects herself, and she quietly prepares to walk if you fail to rise to her level. So, while you're sitting there thinking she's harmless, kind, maybe even naive, understand this. Beneath that gentle exterior is a mind sharp as a blade. And if you're not conscious of how you treat her, if you don't notice the little things, if you don't actively protect her heart, you may wake up one day to a silence that isn't peaceful, a presence that isn't loyal, and a woman who has already decided she deserves better. This is the truth about the good girl that most men never see coming, and it's why the man who truly understands her is the man who never takes her for granted. You said, "Now, I want you to pay close attention because this is where most men completely misunderstand female psychology. The good girl isn't passive, she's strategic. She knows that a relationship doesn't survive on words alone. It survives on feeling, on trust, on consistent proof that her heart is safe with you. And if she senses, even subtly, that her emotional investment isn't being matched, she doesn't shout, she doesn't threaten, she recalibrates, quietly, precisely. Here's the harsh truth. She can give you her loyalty, her time, her trust, and her presence. But if you are emotionally absent, distracted, or careless, she will start building walls you don't even see. Every time you fail to notice her efforts, every time you dismiss her feelings, every time you prioritize convenience over connection, she stores it in a part of herself you cannot access. And slowly, almost invisibly, she distances her heart from you while still appearing committed. Many men assume that if a woman isn't complaining, everything is fine. But I need you to understand that the good girl doesn't need to complain to feel disrespected, hurt, or disappointed. She doesn't always voice her dissatisfaction because she's learned early that being silent is safer. Being silent allows her to protect herself from conflict, rejection, or judgment. She's not hiding because she's weak. She's hiding because she's smart. And here's the part most men completely miss. She is watching your capacity for empathy, patience, and emotional availability. Every gesture, every tone, every small act of attentiveness or neglect tells her whether this man is capable of being the partner she deserves. And she's unforgiving, not in the sense of anger, but in the sense that she quietly adjusts her expectations and prepares for life without you if she doesn't feel seen. You might think that her silence is a lack of passion, that her patience is proof that you are safe. But in reality, her patience is a test. And if you fail repeatedly, she will not cry in public, she will not argue, she will not dramatize, she will leave. And when she leaves, she will do so with dignity and clarity, while leaving you with nothing but questions, regret, and a sudden awareness that the woman you loved was far more aware of your shortcomings than you ever realized. The key here is understanding that emotional awareness is her greatest weapon, and also her shield. She feels everything deeply, notices everything quietly, and judges everything with precision. If you ignore this, you are not just losing her attention, you are risking losing her entirely without ever understanding why. Do not underestimate her. Do not assume her silence is weakness. Because the moment she decides to withdraw, it won't be a fight you can win. It will be a quiet departure you can only reflect on. Here's the part most men never see coming. A good girl doesn't need to create chaos to assert her boundaries. She doesn't need dramatic ultimatums. Her power lies in subtlety. She will stay long enough to see if you are capable of growth, of emotional responsibility, of truly valuing her presence. And if she senses repeated neglect, she will quietly retreat, piece by piece, long before she physically leaves. You might still see her every day, but emotionally she is already miles away. Think about that for a second. She may laugh with you, make you dinner, text you good morning, appear affectionate, but internally she's checking the ledger of how you treat her. Every dismissive comment, every broken promise, every time she bends to make your life easier while you take her for granted, she notices. And she doesn't always confront. Often she internalizes, she strategizes, and she protects herself while silently testing whether you are capable of the kind of man she actually deserves. And here's what separates the men who succeed from the men who fail: attention to detail. She doesn't need grand gestures. She needs emotional awareness. She needs consistent actions that prove you see her, respect her, and honor her contributions. Most men believe that love is about passion, romance, or words. But for the good girl, love is about reliability, empathy, and emotional intelligence. And when you fail at these simple yet crucial elements, she begins to emotionally distance herself without even raising a flag. The danger is that by the time you notice the distance, the emotional connection may already be broken. She doesn't need to shout. She doesn't need to cry. She doesn't need to make a scene. The good girl will simply start protecting her heart in ways invisible to you, less affection, less openness, less emotional availability. She's already preparing for a future where she doesn't rely on you to validate her worth. This is why so many men are blindsided. They think everything is fine because nothing is outwardly wrong. They think loyalty equals contentment. But the truth is that loyalty without emotional fulfillment is fragile, and the good girl knows this more than anyone. She measures your actions, your attention, and your emotional capacity like a careful scientist observing an experiment. Every interaction is data. Every response is a clue. And if the results repeatedly show you are incapable of meeting her emotionally, she quietly distances herself, often without warning, often without explanation, and often in ways you don't notice until it's too late. If you want to truly understand the good girl, you must start by seeing the invisible ledger she keeps, the quiet records of how you make her feel. Miss that, and you risk losing her, not to another man, but to your own neglect. Now let's talk about desire, the part most men completely misread. A good girl can appear calm, composed, even restrained, but inside, her emotions are rich, intense, and layered. The world has taught her to manage her expression carefully. She has learned that showing too much disappointment, too much longing, or too much frustration can make her vulnerable. So she hides it. And that hiding is exactly what gives her power and what can make a man blind to the reality of her needs. Here's what you need to understand. She doesn't withhold her feelings to manipulate you. She does it to protect herself from repeated hurt. Every time she senses indifference, selfishness, or emotional negligence, she steps back, quietly, not as punishment, but as preservation. Her love is not careless, her loyalty is not blind, and her silence is not ignorance. She feels everything, more deeply than most men can comprehend. And when a man fails to notice, she slowly withdraws the very thing he values most, her emotional availability. The mistake most men make is assuming that a good girl will always remain forgiving, that she will always wait for change, that she will always accommodate mistakes. The reality is harsher. She adapts, she recalibrates, and if she concludes that her heart is not being honored, she disengages long before she walks away. And by the time her disengagement is obvious, it may already be irreversible. You might see her still smiling, still affectionate, still present in daily life, and assume all is well. But emotionally, she could already be assessing alternatives, silently imagining a life where she is appreciated, noticed, and respected. This is her survival mechanism. She doesn't need conflict to act. She doesn't need arguments to leave. Her emotional intelligence allows her to protect herself without creating chaos. And if you don't recognize it, you will wake up one day to find that the bond you assumed was secure has quietly unraveled. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A good girl loves with intensity, loyalty, and patience, but she is not infinite. She does not tolerate repeated neglect. She does not survive on excuses. And she will not continue investing in a man who cannot see her, hear her, and honor her. Your awareness of her internal world, the small signs of withdrawal, subtle shifts in attention, quiet disappointment, is the key to keeping her fully present. Miss it, and you risk losing her to the silent, careful decision she makes to protect herself, rather than a dramatic confrontation. Understanding this secret is not just about saving a relationship. It's about recognizing the depth of a woman's emotional world, the care she takes with her heart, and the quiet wisdom behind her silence. If you want to truly keep a good girl, you must see what she hides and respond before it's too late. Now, let me be crystal clear, because this is the part most men never truly grasp. The secret a good girl hides is not about deception. It's about self-preservation, emotional intelligence, and the quiet, unwavering measure of her worth. She has learned early that love without respect is dangerous, patience without reciprocity is exhausting, and loyalty without appreciation is invisible. And she has developed a system to navigate this world without losing herself. She hides her deepest truths until she can trust that you are capable of handling them. Here's the reality many men overlook. Her silence is not emptiness. Her patience is not weakness. Her loyalty is not infinite. Every unspoken thought, Every carefully contained frustration, every quiet observation is a test, a gauge of whether you are the kind of man worthy of her heart. And when men fail to recognize these subtle cues, they are blindsided, not because the woman has deceived them, but because they were never paying attention to the signals she quietly sent. She notices when you fail to prioritize her, when you overlook her efforts, when your actions are inconsistent with your words. She notices when you take her presence for granted, and she responds not with drama, but with caution. She becomes less available emotionally. She engages less deeply. She protects her heart by slowly creating distance. And if you are not attuned to this, you will mistake her composure for satisfaction, her kindness for contentment, and her patience for unconditional tolerance. The moment a man truly understands this, he stops taking her for granted. He stops assuming loyalty is guaranteed. He starts paying attention to the invisible ledger she keeps, how she feels, what she notices, what she silently evaluates. He realizes that maintaining her love is not about grand gestures, manipulations, or words alone. It's about consistent respect, emotional presence, and proof that her heart is safe with him. And here's the ultimate truth. The good girl will stay only as long as she feels valued, understood, and emotionally secure. When she senses repeated neglect, she will quietly distance herself, not because she doesn't care, but because she does. And she refuses to invest in a man who cannot meet her where she truly is. So, if you want to keep the woman who appears gentle, loyal, and composed, you must awaken to her hidden world. You must see what she hides, honor her intelligence, respect her patience, and respond to her heart with the care it deserves. Because the one secret she keeps, the depth of her awareness, her quiet judgment, her subtle measures of your worth, is the truth that can either save your relationship or silently end it.